We are Matt and Jessica, a couple of Michiganders whom, back in 2012, decided they'd had enough of the rat race and shoved off for more distant horizons in their 34-foot sailboat Serendipity. Taking on parts of the Caribbean and sailing 3/4 of the way across the Atlantic, we arrived in the Azores only to fall into deep longing for a project boat back in Florida. Temporarily throwing away our plans for the Med, we crossed back to Florida to begin a complete overhaul on the boat we just purchased, a 1983 Chisaloo, a custom aluminum sailboat. For the past year and a half, we've been slaving away as we live aboard to turn her into our dream boat, making lots of mistakes but also learning along the way. Join us as we get her ready for her first time in the water in 10 years and eventually sail away to those distant horizons once again. Well, it turns out it takes a lot longer than I originally expected to sand down our cabin top to the buttery smooth finish it needs before I can put the all grip on. So I haven't been able to finish that up yet and get it ready to show you in this video. So what I've done instead is just kind of follow Matt around a few times here and there to see what he's working on while I'm busy with my sanding and painting. So in today's video, we're just going to see what Matt does while I'm out on deck. Matt's going through and trying to clean up our hull a little bit. You might be able to see on some of the sides here we took the paint off using an aircraft paint remover, scraping it, so there's some scrape marks we're trying to kind of blend into the surface.
They do not come off.
They're not coming off too easy. So.
To get the final finish on the hull, we still had to clean up some of the welds and a little bit of the remaining paint along with the tow rail. Used a wire wheel to get the last bit of paint on the tow rail, and then the grinder with I think it was a 40 grit disc up to 80 grit disc along the hull line and any of the weld points where we saw any issues. After that, it was a random orbital sander with 60 grit, and then went to 80 grit on top of that. Now, it didn't remove all of the scrape marks, but we got majority of them out, and once the hull oxidizes, I think it'll be kind of an even patina.
We're building a tiller.
Whoa!
So we wanted something, because again, we don't steer ever, so we wanted something that we could extend, retract. Now this is not the full length, it's actually going to be considerably shorter than this. So the extension will go into roughly about this position, and so you have just enough. We'll put a hand wrap on it so you have something to hold on to, and then when you want to, you can release a little screw adjustment here, slide it out to roughly that length will be the total extra that it's going to allow. So it allows a little over a foot of extra leverage then. And to make it, just use pre-bought fiberglass tubes, 1/4 inch thick. So it should be, per my calculation, should be strong enough for a 200-pound person pulling on it. Back here, this is actually all solid fiberglass. You can kind of see the lamination of it, so curved out. This is GPO3, so the electrical grade fiberglass in 1-inch pieces on either side. Then top and bottom is 1 layer, and then 3 layers of 3/16 regular FR4. So, and then just round it off the back type of thing, round it off the sides, give it a little bit of shape, and then I ended up wrapping it. So once this was all glued together, epoxy together, then ended up taking 6-ounce cloth and wrapped it around. Ended up doing 4 layers of 6-ounce cloth on this just to hold this in solid, nice and concrete type of thing around the tube itself. Filled in the back, of course, across there. I'll probably end up putting a drain anyway, and then I'm going to end up putting a bushing through here as well, so then it's not taking that load across there, but it should fit nice and tight once this thing gets all painted up, so it'll be white across here. And the reason why we ended up using fiberglass is instead of aluminum is because of this, making this head section of it that fits within our tiller, the uprights on our tiller or on our rudder, fits up across there. But the biggest thing too is just for heat and cool. Aluminum gets hot, aluminum gets cold. Even with a grip in there, it still does suck out some of the heat out of your body if you don't have gloves on, where fiberglass usually does a pretty good job of not having a problem with that. So we'll, like I said, paint it up and should be good.
Yep, just mix up the paint right now. Gonna get a bit of that on, and then
first coat of primer on it.
See how it looks.
Yeah, and then eventually do some paint on it. And then, like I said, this will get adjusted. Right now, we don't know exactly how long we want the tiller. What you're seeing right now is a 5-foot section in there. It's going to be considerably shorter than that. Most likely, we're going to end up right around that 51 to 52 inch tiller. But without having not sailed the boat before, we really don't know if that's going to be enough or too much leverage, more than what's necessary. So we're not going to cut that off first. We'll leave it long, and then as we figure out what it feels like in some heavy weather, with some weather helm and stuff, then we'll cut it down to the size that's actually necessary.
Here's a project I never really saw us doing. We're making maple bungs. Purchased some online before, and they're not quite matching our wood, so we want to take our own wood and make them to fill in the holes where we screwed everything down.
So pretty much I'm making more sawdust than I am actually plugs, but in the end, it'll be worth it. Determination on my face. So I only have to do this about 1,000 more times. And then the cherry. So everyone knows we have a lot of extra maple, so that's the reason why I'm not doing real tight on these.
I have to say it's a good thing having friends in the work yard. Behind me here you can see our friend Alex that works the travel lift, and he gets gifted for his services, and whatever he can't take or isn't suited for him gets passed on to me. So cheers to us. It's 5 o'clock. We're gonna have a drink. It's time for Fierbend.
Where's mine?
It's right here.
Because I get all kinds of crazy.
Here you go, Matt. Drink it while it's cold. You're busy. Busy playing with wood.
They're like little, like those. Ooh, man. Glasses all freaking What's up?
As you can probably tell right now, we are not at the marina, not at the boat, and that's because we are finally taking a vacation, and I don't know how many months now. My parents have flown in to see us, so we're in Stewart just relaxing for a few days, and we decided that since we were cleaning the boat up for them to see, what a perfect time to show all of you viewers what it actually looks like on the inside as well. Although since this was a last minute thing and it was something we kind of did as we were rushing out the door, it's not the best tour in the world, so we apologize. The angles aren't always right, the color isn't the best because we have tarps over the boat. We weren't sitting and really planning to give a tour, so it's not going to be one of the best tours you've ever seen, but I know a lot of you are curious to what it actually looks like inside there, what's been done, what still has to be done. So this is the best that we can show you right now, and I hope you enjoy a tour of the interior.
We cleaned everything up for Jessica's parents' visit, and we thought we'd give you at least a quick tour while we have everything somewhat dust-free and partially organized. But so things that have changed since the last time we've gone through, we do have kind of a quasi table right now. Just, you want to come around here? Since we don't have a huge area and we didn't want to permanently mount a table, we needed to figure out something that was going to work for us, that we'd still have some place to set drinks, kind of like a cocktail table, and of course was folding out and was removable as well. So we set up with this design. It's not finalized yet. I still have to go through in about 8 more coats of varnish to get a nice finish on it. But the idea is so you can rotate it as needed to wherever we're whatever seating position we're in. Bring it over to this direction. It flips open. Again, I don't have the support across here yet, but when it flips open and is down, that's going to give us our dining room table set up for 3, maybe 4 people if you're really close with them, so which will work just fine for us. And then of course it is removable, and then we made it in the same style as this, so we can mount it over here when not in use. The pole comes out and we are left with this metal support and this bottom support here, but on the whole really isn't that obtrusive looking. So it did give us all the things that we wanted to achieve out of it. Over on this side, we do actually have a chair picked out finally. We are having a post made right now. The welder is building up a new post that's going to be supported by a bulkhead that runs across here, coming through, and it'll raise the chair up another about 1.5 inches. And then we do have a slide so we can go fore and aft and rotate, of course, as well. Nav seat, once we get that welded together, which should be this week, should be able to get that in place, remove the casters, which of course aren't going to be in use. And then things that we still have left to do. Still have to do the wood floor on here, so maple across here with the trim piece around there. This is a settee or a berth back here, and then we will have a support across there, so once that's down there you're not going to see it. I still have to do the molding inside here. Jess, of course, needs to do more painting overhead and all of this, varnish everywhere. We need to put in the bungs in every spot, but what we're going to do is we're going to wait until we've actually sailed it for a little bit, see if anything's loose, if there's any squeaks, rattles, before I go through and fill all these. So it's going to be a couple of months before those actually get into place and covered. In here is where the litter box resides. That actually pops in. Litter box right here. Her access is actually right over here, so she just hops up, climbs in here. There's enough space there's a lot of headroom in there. That was her big objective, is making sure she had enough headroom, so she was comfortable. She loves it in there. It is, someone was asking, it is actually protected. There's a backing to it, so she can't get in the engine. She's not even exposed to the engine at all. That's actually insulated as well for sound for us, but it's also for her too, for heat. Hanging lockers either side. Bilge area, of course, in here. Bilge pump switches. Down we have installed now the switches for the electrical system. They're all double poled switches, so they do both positive and negative. They break both of those. Head door kind of in place now. Here's the head, as you can kind of see, covered with stuff right now, but is our sink. We left the lower part open just to give the appearance of more space in this. Kumru on the floor. Then everything else is our cherry, of course, finish. And in the head with the composting toilet and everything, we use the cherry with some sapwood on it just to give this small little space a little bit more character. You can see it across here and some of the vent coverings and so on. Again, the stuff hasn't been totally varnished yet. It's mostly just an epoxy base, but it does give you an idea of what it's going to look like eventually.
Okay. This is the galley in the kitchen area where you'll normally find me. Our water jug that I currently wash the dishes, although the faucet eventually will come up right here once we're finished working in the area. We did do just one basin sink because we did 2 on our last boat, and between the 2 you couldn't get much in there, so we decided one would be better for us. So we've got our fridge here and freezer, and then a little bit of pantry space, which before we leave we're going to make sure that we have latches so they don't slide open on us. 2 burner stove and oven. We've got some pan storage down here. We keep our plates up here, which on longer passages we'll probably put them away, but just when we're at anchor it's a good spot for them to sit. And I know you're probably thinking this is a terrible setup for bottles, but don't worry, this is just when we're on the hard because we have the space and because Matt has turned my pantry into a tool storage area right now. So this is our galley, and then, yeah, normally I have Georgie's food down there, so don't worry. We don't just throw our dishes on the floor. This is our forward salon where we hang out every night. The cushions that I made a few months ago still hopefully holding up pretty well. Georgie's enjoying them right now. And under all of the seats are storage. They just lift up like this, And we'll probably end up putting secure Rubbermaid type containers in there to actually hold the items that we'll end up storing.
And latches.
And latches. Don't worry, we're going to be safe about all this.
Everything's latched down. We have all the latches for the floorboards and everything. They haven't been installed yet because we haven't figured out placement.
So our clothing cabinets, which we have little push locks here. Some of the things we have to do, we'll probably do it in the water because it doesn't have to be done now, is get a last coat of paint on the overhead and the ceiling. Of course, you know, it's my favorite thing to do. All I do on this boat is sand and paint. But the coolest feature of the boat, and I'm going to have to move the cat, she's going to be really pissed about this, is our bed. So this is our bed. You can see, obviously it comes down into the forward salon. Wish we came up with this design, but the boat actually came like it. So got a little bit more painting to do. We use this as a workspace, you may have seen in previous videos, and just get it all dirty, so it will be one of the last things we do. Our sheets too, we bring dirt in them every night, so don't worry, this is not how it's going to look when we go. And normally we sleep head here, but it's just a nice space to lounge, comfortably fit 2 people, and we've got a huge hatch up here. I don't know if Matt can bring the camera in to show it.
Yeah, it's covered with a tarp right now.
It's covered with a tarp to keep me cool while I do all the sanding and painting outside. But we think it'll be a great spot for when we're at anchor, just have that wind coming in, breakfast or coffee in bed, lounge. And when we're done with it for the day and want to sit in the area, just fold it right back up. And barrel bolt. And now we have our sitting area back. So that is our boat. It's not really huge. It's not even really that clean right now, but at least now you can get an idea of what it's going to look like when it's done. So I hope you enjoy.